Yehuda Levin, your lone ranger, your lone stranger, one small man standing up against the tsunami, the hurricane of immorality, of political correctness, of attacks on our hashkafas. It is I, your humble host, Yehuda Levin, the dean and founder of the University of the Hashkafas of Gedolei Yisrael of yesteryear. With 99% of Rush Limbaugh's brain tied behind my back just to make it fair for the opposition, for the people I debate on the radio, on my WhatsApp, and throughout my life. The Mark Appels, the Heshi Tischlers, the militant Mishkevei Zohar, the David Lichtensteins, all kinds of people with Kruma, Hashkafis, Meirav Rabbi, you have come to the right address. If you're joining us for the first time now, we're heard each and every Thursday evening after an hour after Jewish programming ends. There's a Christian program in between. You turn us back on at 11 o'clock for 11 at 11, and I guarantee you'll hear one of the most provocative, insightful, challenging, stimulating hours of Jewish radio the way it was meant to be, and the purpose to instill a chizuk in us, and that we can and must fight back against the siren calls of immorality and compromise that unfortunately are being acceded to, surrendered to by our own askanim, and too often our rabbinate and the masses who don't know any better. Meirav Rabbi, we can be seen on Hefkervelt, the blog in Lakewood. We can be seen on 11 at 11, our YouTube channel. We're heard on the radio, and you could hear us, and our programs are archived on our hotline. Please take down the hotline number 641-715-3900. Again, it's 641-715-3900, extension 247656. Extension 247656. Meirav Rabbi, we have a very full program this evening. We'll begin by talking about the shortcomings and the embarrassment that is the Lakewood Vad. Surely they do good things, but they've been messing it up lately big time, and we're going to discuss it. We're going to talk about the Lakewood Congressman, conservative Republican Chris Smith, and what we, the Lakewood Seaboard, can do to communicate with Chris Smith and make a low-cost, no-cost Kiddush Hashem. We're going to talk about Mr. Phillips. Mr. Phillips, the man who recently won in the Supreme Court of the United States that he didn't have to bake a cake for the Mishkevei Zohar marriage couple. They're attacking him again in Colorado. We're going to talk about the vital importance that each and every Jew in the 45th district in Flatbush realize the sakana of Flatbush Mama, 30 to 32-year-old who calls herself Flatbush Girl. And just like that's inappropriate, the tznius that surrounds the Flatbush Girl grows and grows by the day. And we want to plead with each and every person, do not elevate this person, this irresponsible prutza, to a leadership position as district leader, which will be a stepping stone for her to go on to run eventually for city council or higher office. In addition, we're going to see what's doing on the other side of the fence. When we see, and we can't fail to be inspired, challenged by a bishop who writes an open letter about the immorality in his church and what has to be done about it. It's kedai sometimes to see what the other side is doing so that we should understand what we should be doing. Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada, not good, not good. We'll discuss it. The chesroinus of the Markey bill, The market builders is being championed by many liberals in the Jewish community, by many people who unfortunately have been abused. Why do I believe that Frum Yidden should absolutely oppose the market bill? A newer understanding of tznius and how I came about it. Basically, I have a WhatsApp. The WhatsApp group is extremely active, extremely controversial, extremely provocative. On a daily basis, we have the most unusual guests, liberals, people who support Navala, and we show people Dam Malahoshev Lapikoris, and we dialogue with them. We try to outreach to them to see if we can make some progress with bringing them back a little. But in any event, the only people who can dialogue with such people are people who have a lot of Siyata Shmaya experience when trained by Gedolei Yisrael of the generation of yesteryear. It's not everybody who can just go and deal with these people. I'd like to elaborate on that. And then finally, would you spend $15 to save your marriage? We hope to impart to you today how an expenditure of as little as $15 could change your whole marriage and can actually save Yidden Jewish families from going through a divorce. We're going to tell you about how to spend that $15. And then, if time permits, we have an 18-minute lecture, a shir, having to do with the power of Jewish women and what we should be doing and thinking about in Elul. So, without any further ado, let me wish each and every one of you l'chaim tov l'shalom, and then we will begin this week's program, Parshas Kisei 5778. Where did Rabbi say? Lakewood. We've been asking the Knakarim in Lakewood, Harav, CEO, Rav Achoshev, Aaron Kotler, Shlita, if he could please find some time in his busy schedule, him and some other Askonim, the mayor, the committee men, the Askonim from the Vad of Lakewood, to contact the freeholders and speak to them about not having the Shmootz for the month of June in the library of Lakewood, and certainly not in the children's section. So far, it's still. But we're not going to stop. This is like the Sfir Sa'ima. We're going to keep on telling you again and again and again. Because when they dealt with the billboards and the masses, the Olam stood up and they signed petitions, the Rosh Yeshivas heard the cry. And a focus point, a leitmotif, or a raison d'etre of this program is to educate the listenership and the viewership. They should understand the power is with the people. There used to be a Gentile who was very popular on the radio, ABC. He's very popular in the film community, Bob Grant. He's not in this world anymore, and he used to say, your influence counts, use it. And that's MS. You have an achrayus to use your influence for good things. And the more people know and they realize that they're not being served in the areas of morality. In many other areas, they might be served very fine, but in the areas of morality, they are not being served. They are being betrayed through taciturnity, through benign neglect or active neglect, by sins of omission or sins of commission. Omission is when you leave something out, it's benign neglect. Commission is when you proactively do it that way. But dafka, you do it that way. We said a story last week. Maybe they're embarrassed because the Ocean County freeholders, they know a lot of the kunkel-munkel shtiklach that go on. So they would answer them, on the tznius, all of a sudden you're worried about the books in the library. So maybe that's why they don't do it. Whatever the reason is, stop doing the kunkel-munkel. Do what you have to do. That we should be able to tell these freeholders not to have the shmutz. If we turn the other cheek to shmutz, we accept it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Cyber Gashmias and Cyber Ruchnias. At the same time that the Lakewood Vad and Askadim can't find within themselves to do the right thing on morality, thousands of people were shocked when a tape surfaced of a Chabad person who was called by somebody from the Vad, Lakewood Vad Chinuch, who was having a problem getting his child into a school. And if you hear the way the conversation went, you could cringe. It wasn't geschmack. It was very embarrassing. It was very sad. This underlines the problems that people have, and the fact that the same vad, they could speak so disparagingly to a parent who's suffering because his kid's not in the school, yet they can't speak truth to power when it comes to the Lakewood Library. Shame on the vad. Got to fix up things in the vad. Avada v'avada, it's not so good. Let's move right along. Chris Smith. I know Chris Smith for so many years. 1984, he was a young congressman. And I was running for Congress against Stephen Solars, powerful Democratic congressman in Brooklyn, New York. Not that I had any chance of winning, but it was to make a machor because Solars was a sponsor of a national Mishkav Zacha bill. He was ultra-liberal, pro-communist, pro-Comandante Ortega, the dictator, the communist dictator in Nicaragua, El Salvador. And I got a letter signed by 19 congressmen then, saying that they wanted to endorse me, that I should place, publicity piece. One of those people is the famous Newt Gingrich, who went on to become a congressional leader and made the contract with America, brilliant fellow. Has his chesroinus, of course. And Chris Smith, a young congressman, if I recall correctly, signed for me also. Chris Smith's a good person. He's a natural conservative Republican, and he represents Lakewood. It's a nice fit. The question is, does Chris Smith see from the Lakewood Vad and the Lakewood Schwitzers and the people from the Lakewood community who are in touch with him that they're only interested in geld and geld and more and geld? Or does he see they're also interested in God, Hashem Likeinu Hashem Echad, God, Gettlichkeit, Gettlichol Moralischkeit, godly morality? Do they see that? So let me give you a simple exercise that could be a gewaltige Kiddush Hashem with Chris Smith. And he could say, after years and years of representing Lakewood, wow, I never knew, I never heard from them. Too much concern about morality. Now, most of New Jersey is a liberal place, but Chris Smith, strong conservative Republican, one of the pro-life leaders of not aborting babies in the whole Congress. There's a bill, I told you, it's mamish one sentence. It says that in the embassies throughout the world, the United States embassies, the only flag that can fly is the United States of America flag, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. You get the picture. Why do you need such a law for? Because right now, since Obama, and it continues at Trump, the Mishkevei Zacha, who try at every step of life and at every stage to promote their hashchasa, they have their rainbow flag, and they have their rainbow flags flying next to the American flag in all kinds of countries in their embassies, including in Eretz Yisrael. And now that the embassy moved to Yerushalayim, it's even a bigger disgrace, because the rainbow flag represents the antithesis, the exact opposite of what the Arabs called Yerushalayim El Quds, the holy city. The Arabs, the Muslims, understand that they would never dare to have in the Muslim section of Jerusalem a gay parade, a Mishkav Zacha parade. Only in the Fruma areas, only in the new part of Jerusalem do they march with impunity. They wouldn't mess with the Arabs. They wouldn't put up rainbow flags near the Arabs. The Arabs will find out what it means. They'll go Messias Nevish. So what does it cost you, Rabbi Sai, to take a step for God? It costs you nothing. Lift up the phone and call Chris Smith, your congressman's office, and say, we want you to be a sponsor or co-sponsor of the bill. No flag should fly except Old Glory. And therefore, Vakivin, the Mashmoya saw that they won't be able to have any type of flag, even an MIA flag, missing in action, from the people who still haven't been discovered, who were left in Vietnam. Some people fly MIA, but we're willing to be mavato on that, albeit that they shouldn't be able to fly a rainbow flag and make a chilul Hashem. And it'll be a big kiddush Hashem. So here, we're training you in Lakewood Oilam. Every small step you begin to see that you can be teveya politicians for what you want. This is a valuable, valuable, valuable lesson. And the more we, the Amcha, the people, are informed and educated, and the more they start to be teveya the politicians directly, and they don't just depend on the Vad, the Shema, the Asken, the Pasken, the Rabbanim, the Yeshivas, the Rebbes, the rabbis. You do it yourself like Pinchas. Remember our Torah, Pinchas, Karina Digrito, Iu Lavi Pravanko. Moshe Rabbeinu was dejected. He was depressed. How could I forget halacha? Oh, Pinchas, a plain person came. So I know for Doris, the plain people are going to have to stand up and take a leadership role to fight for morality. From Pinchas until now, Lakewood, please, B'nai Torah, Balabatim. Here's your job assignment this week. Call Chris Smith. I apologize. I'm a Batlin. I should have had Chris Smith's number. I really should have had his number, and I apologize for not having his number. But I'm asking each and every person to try to call some Chris Smith. And in Yis Hashem, it's a very easy way to make a Kiddush Hashem. Very, very easy way to make a Kiddush Hashem. Doesn't cost anything. And that's one of the points that I'm making to people. You know, it's very hard to be a Torah scholar, to be a Torah masmid. I, for one, have a tremendous problem with this flesh. I have ADD. Very, very hard. But it's equally hard. Besides being a masmid, it's equally hard to be a big Baal Chesed, to go out, to be a huge Baal Chesed, run around, delivering packages all hours of the day and night, driving people, Hatzalah. That's hard. But, Rabbi Sai, here, this is not hard. To daven with kavanah is not hard, doesn't cost anything. You get a godel in tefillah. The Shmuel Arina Vela tefillah. Morav Rabbi Sai. Here is Chris Smith's number. 609-286-2571. Call up Chris Smith. 609-286-2571. Again, another number. 732-350-2300. Chris Smith's number 732-350-2300. Tell Chris Smith, this is one of the largest Orthodox Jewish communities in America. We are patriotic, and we want the only flag that should fly. We want him to become a co-sponsor of this. Okay? So that's your job assignment for the week, Rabbi Sai. You can even call up Rabbi Aaron Kotler. You can call up the mayor, the committeeman, the Vard, and ask them why they're not doing this. Why do I have to tell them? Why don't they have enough seichel to monitor bills, that this, that, morality, and to look for ways to do things that don't cost any money or any effort, and make the Kiddush Hashem. And the politicians on all levels should start to know we're serious about morality, not just guilt. Mr. Phillips, the baker, that got a $124,000 farm because he didn't want to bake a special cake, an artistic cake for Mishkav Zocha couple. He said he would sell them any cake in the store, B'asher Husham, but he should use his artistic talents to further decorate the cake. That goes against his religious principles. And he was willing to get schlepped all the way to the Supreme Court. He was willing that the Colorado Human Rights Commission fined him $124,000. You think it was a Retzeach? I went out there in the cold winter with a handful of people. We made a Kiddush Hashem the day the Supreme Court was hearing the case. And ultimately in June, they announced that he won. You would think they would leave him alone. No. The Colorado Human Rights Commission is digging up me into the dirt from underneath the ground. Anything they can come out with other kindness and other charges to be right of his neshama. I'm makana this fellow, Mr. Phillips. It's a tremendous Kiddush Hashem that this gentleman is doing, standing up for his religious freedom, his religious principles. Thousands and thousands of dollars he lost in business, and the lawyers and this and that, even if he didn't have to pay, even if he got it for free, believe me, I'm sure it cost him money. It cost him who knows what, boycott, akmas nefesh, and he's still getting smacked. like Halavai Yiyah Chelki Moivi Mohem. Like Dama ben Nesina taught us from the time of the Gemara, Kibarein. Dama ben Nesina, he was zeicher to get a stone for the Choshen for the Ephod. He was zeicher after that to sell them a Para Aduma. We should be zeicher. We should be zeicher to be like Mr. Phillips, to stand up for our family values and our morality. On the Christian websites, there's a Meshumid now. Meshumid. Very intelligent Meshumid. Mamish learns Gemara and everything. One of the most dangerous Meshumadim. But he's very moral. And he writes about the fact that they're asking conversion therapy in California not to give a person the right to pay, to help, to change his inclinations or his child's inclinations for same gender attraction of Yimazakt. So he's writing to them, you have to be moisen nefesh, go to jail, fight them on, fight them. Not something you read about by our Torah, or our Rabbanim, and our leaders. By ends, we hear the smart thing. What do we care what the gays do? It's not affecting us. This is Rav Lezer Shach said clearly to Noach, you have to fight against it in America because it does affect us. Like the Chinuch said, other nifl kifi pulais of a man is affected by what his activities and he's affected by his surroundings. Of course it affects us. So, what do you say, Rabbi Isai? If Shach is not good enough for you, if Shach told he has to fight it. It's in the Haggadah of Shach. Absolutely. Now, we have Prime Minister Trudeau, an ultra-lib from Canada. Recently, they were celebrating one of these pride events in Montreal. And listen to what the leader of the Canadian country said. It's not enough that we have to tolerate the Mishkevei Zacha. You have to tolerate the fact that there's a law of homosexual marriage. No, that's not enough. Now they're going the next big slice of salami. You have to have acceptance of the Mishkevei Zacha and all their demands and their marriage, etc., etc. So tolerance, think about it, is one level. Acceptance is a much more chashuv level. Acceptance means they're going to start to mess with your religion. You're not going to be able to speak out in public and say, I oppose this, because you're not accepting of it. That means you're a hater. If you're a hater, you have to pay knossos, fines, and get arrested. This is what's happening in Canada now. And it's coming to a theater near you. It's coming more and more. They're tightening the noose around us. This was what I said to this guy, Jeff Leb. Jeff Leb was the fellow who marched in the Mishkav Zacha parade. He told me he's going to Shachris, learning Daf Yomi. He's married for 19 years. He has 5 children. He learned in yeshivas. Jeff Leb is telling me he has Rachmanis on the Mishkav Zacha, the kids, because they're suicidal. They hear all the condemnations that come from religious people and from the rabbis and everything else. It's a tayeva, this and that. And they're afraid to come out. They're afraid to declare who their identities are. And the head of Jewish Queer Youth, Levovitz, tells me in a long conversation last night until 3:20 in the morning, here in another Mishkav Zacha, tells me, from the time I was very young, he says, from the time I was 2 years old, I knew I was different. And it didn't have to express itself in the Geyachts and the Mishkav Zacha. It expressed itself, I was different, etc., etc. And then gradually I discovered this also. He said, and so many of us don't have approval. We have disapproval from our parents, our grandparents, our surroundings, and they have a whole Torah to explain why they're the biggest victims in the world and how schrecklich it is, and how anything we do to say anything against the thing, against the movement, against the lifestyle, against the practice, we're mamish killing them, we're adding insult to injury, and we are destroying them. And Levovitz, who I call Captain Queer, with his acquiescence, because why do I call him such a name? It's not nice. The Mishkevei Zacha called themselves queer, and he started an organization called Jewish Queer Youth, the Mechazik people 14, 15, 16, high school kids. Yeah, you have these feelings. You're a lesbian, you have to stay like that. We have to help you. That you should be proud. Come march in the gay pride parade with your tzitzis out. Oh, you never wear your tzitzis out? You wear a colored shirt? No. For the parade, put on your white shirt like I am putting on Levavis, putting on his white shirt. Have your tzitzis hanging out. Prominently display your yarmulkes. Carry signs that say Orthodox Jews and this and that. So Jeff Levin is a very compassionate individual. He cares terribly about these kinder who are committing suicide because of the likes of bashers and haters like Yehuda Levin. It's not true. I promise it's not true. I have Rahmanis on them. I've said publicly on radio, on the Goyish radio, there, but for the grace of God, thank Hashem I don't have this challenge, this sorrow. I don't hate them. I have Rahmanis on them. You know what I hate? I hate when they make a public sheet out of it. I hate the marching. I hate the pride. What's it to be proud about? Yeah. So I told Lev, he's very secure. L'chaim Tov again. Jeff Lev is very secure. He's doing God's work. He tells me, Chas v'sholom, aflu pume. If Chas v'sholom, my grandchildren come out and they're like this, he'll be waiting there to accept them and to give them chizik and everything else. Look, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing when a person has a child who's autistic, who's retarded, who's a mongoloid, who's very sick. And it's a terrible thing when a person finds a child that has such an orientation. But we don't change the whole Torah for that. We don't go around preaching hate. We have to preach strongly against the lifestyle. Just like we have to preach against adultery and premarital relations and pornography. We have to speak against this also. So I told Jeff Lev, you're bleeding heart liberal. You're so concerned with those kids that you're a Jew and you're from community and you're intelligent and you work for government and you're a lobbyist. And therefore, you don't follow what's going on with the transgendered bathrooms, with the way Cuomo is going after somebody, a city clerk in upstate New York, who didn't want to marry Mishkevei Zocha. I don't even think it was a paying position. And if it was, she gets very little money, and he's going after her with hammer and tongue, investigate, try to cancel her, maybe put her in jail. Lev, they're trying to push the curriculum to schools. They push homosexuals should adopt children. Many, many things that they do. So I asked him, why can't you be fair? I asked him in Levavas, the same way you have compassion for the homosexual children, who I don't even believe half of them are really homosexual. It's fluid. It's fluid, the identity at that point, and they're being machazik them, they're affirming to them that that's their identity, instead of really facilitating and encourage them that they might be normal, what they call straight, what we call normal. So that's my challenge to them. At least go 50-50 for every ounce of effort you put in for the Mishkevei Zocha, because you have Rahmanis on them, you have to save them from people because they're going to cause them to commit suicide. At least do something for the other side, meaning do something to fight for our standards and values. Stand up and oppose different bills. Stand up and oppose in the parade. You're taking kids into the parade. In that parade, they have floats with people simulating intimacy and come out 90% undressed. It's preach, it's garbage. Why don't you complain about that? Why don't you complain about the fact that there are people, if you check into it, that mamish or mashamish, they're copulating in the side streets during the parade? In other words, Levavitz, Lev, they won't do anything out front to separate themselves from the entire movement. And they rationalize, we're doing it for the kids, invite we're doing for the kids, invite we're doing for the kids. But what we have to do is, you have to learn how to speak to kids. That's why this past week I posted a 13.5-minute video on my WhatsApp. How do you get to my WhatsApp? I think if you send an email to Rabbi Levin, the number 11, Rabbi Levin, the number 11 at gmail.com, they'll send you the latest link. We're urging you to participate in the WhatsApp when you're not learning Torah, when you're not busy, and tell your friends about the WhatsApp. And by the way, let me tell you again and again, that we have somewhere over here in our list of papers, we have a hotline. And I gave you the number of the hotline before. I wanted to give it to you again. I don't know what I do with the papers from 1 minute to the next. It's lucky, Rabbi said, that my head is attached. It's very, very lucky. It wasn't attached. If it wasn't attached, Rabbi said. Here we go. The hotline number that you can call 24 and 6 in your archive programs. I particularly recommend for those who haven't heard our radio program in the past, they're hearing for the first time. We did fascinating stories, programs in the recent weeks, a few-part series that's archived on 11 at 11, 11 at 11, 11 strudel 11 is our YouTube channel. And it says the errant, that means a mistaken Rabbi Shera Zechroim Levraka doctrine, which we spoke in the past. Rabbi Shera created a doctrine of how do you deal with liberal politicians. Basically, you agree to disagree and you respect each other and you don't talk too much about Mishkav Zacha, you don't talk too much about abortion. And where did I get this? How do I know this is true? Well, besides that I've dealt with Agudas Yisrael for the last 30 to 40 years, here's the book I'm holding up to Rabbi Shera, authentic, authoritative biography written by Yonason Rosenblum, one of the people, at Agudas. And if you turn to the chapter about Rabbi Shera morality, it's all there. The indictment is staring you in the face. And the quotes from Solas and Schumer are staring you in the face. That's how I know. So Rabbi Say, we're going to come back shortly. This is Yehud 11. We're going to go to the second part of our program. So please stay with us. And we'll be right back.